What is up, everyone? John here with Motivation Theory running Monday Night Live. We're back 2 in a row. We're on a streak here. I'm your host, John. And today we are honored to have Alex Papadopoulos on the show. He is an ultra runner, race director, and also the owner of Athletic Equation, a company that offers coaching, trail adventures, and of course, endurance events. Before we get started, please make sure you hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, please try doing so. It's the red button just below if you're not subscribed. Also, hit the bell, the little bell there that makes sure you get notifications each and every time I release new content, and also those type of things let YouTube know you enjoy my content and will suggest my content to more people like you, like-minded people. And without further ado, add Alex to the stream. Welcome, Alex. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, John?
I am hanging. It's good to see you too. I'm hanging in there. I hope that introduction was not too long for you.
No, probably not as long as the last name, right?
Yeah, I had to practice a little bit, just a little bit. I probably still messed it up.
Nah, you're spot on, brother.
Good. So you're familiar with our channel, with my channel. And most people that watch this channel are probably pretty familiar with your company because I talk about it all the time because I love your races.
Well, thank you. It's I'm honored. And you've got one of the shirts on. I got to point that out to everyone.
Yes. So I think 90% of the time I'm wearing an Athletic Equation shirt when you see the little symbol here. So just to kick things off, most of this channel are people who are either new to ultra running or trying to bridge into ultra running. And there is a group of folks that are veterans that watch this, but it's mostly geared towards people who are, making their journey into it or thinking about it. So one of the things I'm very interested in when it comes to people who run ultra marathons is kind of what got you into it, kind of what is your why. With me, there's an interesting crossroads, so I'll share the story. So back around 2013, I'd been running marathons for years, and I read Born to Run, an ultra marathon man, and I watched the movie, what is it, Unbreakable, the story of the Western States 100. The movie that came out, wore that DVD out. But when I started researching this, because again, this was I'd never heard of ultra marathons, had no idea when I was a marathon runner that there was such a thing that somebody would want to do. And I started searching on the internet, and I came across back in the day when people wrote legit race reports, and I know people still do it today on blogs. And I came across one where someone wrote this very detailed story about what eventually ended up being the adventure trail race, the 24-hour adventure trail race. And he talked about running through the woods and at night and Prince William Park. And I'm like, that's not that far away. And it was so vivid. And I remember reading this and thinking, like, why would someone want to do like it just seemed it was such a foreign thing to me. And he talked about the bridge, which everyone who's watched this channel has seen the bridge in there. And so I remember vividly hearing about this rickety old bridge. And and that was kind of what bridged me into doing ultra marathons. And my why was I'm pretty OCD, and I'm one of those people that's going to keep going further and further just because you can do it. You can keep going further. But I'm interested in your why and kind of how you got into ultra marathons.
Yeah, that's I wish I could say there's some great story behind it, but really similar to yours. If you want to go all the way back and sort of having been asked a question many times with friends or, in your case now, going back to a youngster, I played field sports. Grew up playing soccer from the age of 5. So, wrestled in high school. So there was always some type of endurance-based sport. And that said, I ended up, I think my senior year in college, I think all through college we played, I called it drunk soccer, which was, you partied the night before, on a Friday night and Saturday night, and we had a 6-on-6 tournament that we played in my first 3 years of college, and we sucked, but it was a great fun. So anyhow, my senior year, I ran a 10K. And then after I graduated, I had a cousin. We started talking. She ran a marathon through the Leukemia Society team in training. And that was back in 97. And it really took off from there. So boom, it was, ran that for 3 years. And, then I heard about this thing called living here in the DC area at the time, this thing called the Bull Run 50 miler. And, like, oh, that sounds interesting. Of course I was, didn't know what I was doing, the classic, and a lot of this you learn as you go. And then also as you become more exposed to the community, you listen to people's stories, and it really grew from there. And that's where that's my boring story, nothing, nothing fancy, but really seeking and, seeing, all right, what's next? How far can I push myself physically, psychologically? And I don't know if emotion is a separate piece to the psychological when we do this, these types of events, the ultra distance. But yeah, that's, it was really for me pushing myself, always looking to find my limits, I guess, and finding that boundary and see if I can, where's the top, where's that ceiling? But yeah, so, nothing really fancy, man. It was just sort of, fell into it. But the underlying backbone between all of it is being out in nature, and, being out in the woods from, coupled with the soccer, we used to go on these hikes, in the Ozarks with my uncle, or just in our neighborhoods where we lived out in the desert. And it was just one of those things that just sort of stuck with me, just being out in nature. And then it's like, hey, I love hiking, and now I'm running these marathons. Yeah. I can't do both. And then it's like, oh, Bull Run, let's check this out. Hey, this is really awesome. And then, just sort of took off from there. And then, then we evolved into Athletic Equation a number of years later, meeting great folks. But yeah, that's it. Nothing really fancy, folks. It's just,
I think it's probably similar to most people. I have noticed that people who have a tendency to move towards ultra marathons, are all, we may be very different from our backgrounds and kind of what we enjoy and everything, but there's a core to us, a pillar in every one of us that's kind of the same. We kind of get it. We're not one of those people when someone says, hey, I ran 50 miles, like, we're like, oh, that's cool. When most people are like, why would you do that? And of course, the old joke of, I don't even like to drive that far and all that stuff. So I think there's something that, is in all of us, whether it be an addictive personality or this, someone who wants to challenge themselves. Like I love the challenge of pushing my boundaries. I was like you, I was an athlete when I was younger, and, I was looking for a challenge. There's been nothing really to challenge me athletically or even mentally and emotionally, like you're saying, because it really is an emotional and mental battle when you're out there. So that's kind of how I've been able to peel back the layers of myself as I've gotten older. We grow in those valleys of life, and when we put ourselves through the challenges, and day in and day out, we probably don't do it in the same way. We don't, I could tell you what, I've been broken on a trail before. I mean, completely in tears, sitting on a trail, completely broken, not knowing that I could take another step, humiliated in my mind. That doesn't happen in everyday life, thank God. But I think that's part of the allure of this sport. And that's what I try to talk to, convince people of, that this is all in all of us. I think that as humans, I think this will to challenge yourself and to survive is in all of us. And that's what I want to let everyone know is, we don't have to be some, college runner. You don't have to be an elite runner to do this type of thing.
No, I think, whether it's the ultra running or whatever the other endeavor is that you decide to pursue, I do believe after, being involved in this sport now for a number of years, where you really start to look at, people's character, like you said, and the makeup, and we all have that little core piece. And, I do believe that this type of power to do these incredible feats of physiological, psychological, and emotional exists within all of us. Absolutely. And it's in the hopes that at some point, sooner or later, we're all going to realize that. It's just it's an untapped resource that, it's at some point you just got to figure out how to how we can tap into it.
Absolutely. Joe Kern's chiming in here. Joe says, good to see you, Alex. Love your aid stations. I'm hooked on pierogies and hummus wraps now. Yeah, I remember being at the aid station with him with the pierogies and convincing him to eat the hummus wrap.
Oh, my favorite. We like to think that we started those about 15 years ago. Way up to 24 hour. I think that was it was our first trail race. And I'm going to suggest that Joe's the reason you and Joe are the reasons why we didn't have any pierogies left the next morning.
I guarantee you, I ate probably 15 to 18 of them. No joke. I was literally, I think lap 3 or lap 2, and Joe could probably correct me. I was kind of hit a low point early. I just wasn't eating enough. And I downed like 6 of them. And then I was hyper, like almost giddy on like the 3rd lap. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. The food, as you just mentioned, that quality food is you got to take care of yourself. And yeah, that's talking about aid stations. It's all you never know what you're going to get, and we like to think we have really good aid stations. Joe can attest to that. I guess you can attest to that too.
Yeah.
But it's the quality of the food that you're putting into yourself when you're running. That really, I think, determines that some people can get away with it. Over the years, the better food that you put into your body, those ups and downs that you're going to experience in an ultra marathon tend to become, I'm not going to say ripples, but it becomes a choppy sea versus a typhoon of emotions. Pierogies, miracle food by Joe Kern.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great.
That is been the battle for me since starting running ultras is the nutrition. Now, recently I've switched to, and I'm not advocating everyone to do it, but for me, I switched to a whole food plant-based diet. And it's really helped me focus my what I'm taking in, and that's been the biggest battle during races. Is I have a tendency to not train a ton eating while I'm training. So when I go into a race, I think I can just power out that first 20 miles without taking in much, and then you're behind the ball. You're behind the 8 ball at that point. And so eating early, eating often has been it sounds really simple, and it sounds like something that there's not a problem with it, but executing it has always been an issue. In the 24-hour race recently, I nailed it. Felt great the whole time because of that.
And you looked at too. I mean, every time I saw you coming in through our checkpoint at the timing station, you were in good spirits. And in past years when you ran it, you were yo-yo at times.
Well, I was had good company with Joe, so a good company, a good conversation. So. Like many people, I've looked into the sign up, was it ultra sign up, and looked into a little bit of history. And you have ultra runners have a tendency to pick the same kind of races year in and year out, especially if you're not a professional runner and you get paid for it. You have a tendency to kind of hit the same races and races that you love. I mean, I do the same thing.
Thank you.
So I stick with your races, but notably you've run the Hurt 100 many times, and at one point you'd finished that. You had the record for the most finishes in that race. So how do you strategize and pick the race? Is it literally location, or is it the challenge of the race? How did you come to? I mean, because Hurt's not close to us here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that whole thing? I've watched a documentary basically on YouTube. I think that kind of the history of it, and it has a very cool history, how it started and how it's continued on. But how'd you get into that? And why did you
was
continue?
that the one was it the one Rooted?
It might have been. It might have been. And I think that's where I was taking screenshots and sending them to you. Like, is this you?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good watch. They did a really great job with that. Hurt for me was really by accident. When I used to work, now as John said, owner, operator, Athletic Equation alongside with my wife. And it's not really just us, what John said and about what the race organization, what I want to tell everyone, it's not me, it's not my wife. It's, John's going to be volunteering at the OSS in a couple of weeks. It's the volunteers that make our athletic equation community. It's by no way me. And I strongly believe that, and I'm going to be pointed and direct. You have a lot of race directors that go out there and say, I do this, I do that. And I'm going to tell you, F that. They're putting too much focus on themselves, because it's a community, and it's the volunteers. In every pre-race brief, I always say, we pull a permit and we have an idea, and it's everyone coming together for the event, for their friends who are running that, it's like, hey, all right, with COVID, like, hey, I can't, crews are limited. Can I volunteer? And, all these people come together and they bust their asses off, and it's for you guys. It's not for me, it's for you guys. So that's why I say, when people say athletic equation, yeah, I hate it when people turn it on me, because but and at the same breath, I say thank you, not to sound like a hypocrite, but it's really the community, the volunteers, that pour their heart and soul into that event. And that's what keeps bringing people like you, John, back. It's not, I'm convinced it's not me. It's the other people that come and support the event. The national parks, where we're fortunate to work with. But yeah, so now, with that, getting rid of that caveat, that said, Hurt was really by accident for me. I went there for work. I was assigned there for work 3 months after we got married in 2004, before we started Athletic Equation. And I think, as trail runners, anytime we're going somewhere, whether it's on a holiday or for work, we're always looking out to go for a run. It's a great way to explore, whether it's the city, the local environment, if it's the woods, your suburban terrain, whatever it is, right? You're just going to go out for a run. If you're stationed in the desert somewhere, you're going to go check things out. And that's the first thing I did. 4 days after I arrived to Hawaii for my work assignment for that year, ended up being 9 months. I did my research, found out this thing called Hurt, which is Hawaii Ultra Running Team. I ran their 50K, which was their very first race that they started over 25 years ago, the Papadopoulos 50K. And I ran that, and my wife surprised me the day before. She popped out there on a plane. She ran the 10 miler, I ran the 50K, and that community really sucked us in. And, we became part of what they call Ohana out there. And, then then that 4 months later, I ran their 100K. In the January of 2005, and then came back in 2006 after my work assignment finished. And I trained there. I was gung-ho after my first MMT in 2005. Woohoo! I was like, all right, I'm invincible. Check it out. And I went out there and I ran 40 miles, and dusk hit. I got and I sat in a chair and I cried my eyes out for an hour. And I still can't tell you why. And it was just, what it was, I don't know. And I'd never felt like that before. And yeah, I think that's sort of where my obsession with Hurt started, beyond the Ohana, which it always brings us back. It's really that, for me, that was my first ultra running failure. And there are a lot of lessons that I learned from it, but at the end of the day, I didn't cross that finish line at the 100 miles where what I did. So what ended up happening after about an hour of just crying, and my sister was crewing me at the time. She got my wife on the phone, who wasn't there. Come on, you can do this. And I wouldn't have any of it. I was still in a pity party. They sent me back to the car. They said, go to sleep. I went to sleep for 6 hours. I woke up the next morning at 3 a.m. and they said, hey, you can go back out there, and you can still finish 100K on this course, which is as tough as any 100 on the mainland. And back then, I think it was. And yeah, part of me is still out on that course, and I'm still looking for it. And that's what keeps me coming back. Part of it. The other part of why we keep doing that race over is, with this trail community here in the DC metro area, you love seeing you get used to seeing the same people over, and you build these friendships. And, now we've got 2 kids at 9 and 12, and, maybe we're a little bit spoiled, but we go back there for holiday every year. We see some friends. Dad throws a race in between. And so we just, I mean, it's not, it's just sort of simple, man. We just go there for holiday now. I throw in a race. We get to see some old friends, share a couple beers and stories of other race experiences. But yeah, so for me, races, I like, you answer that part of the question. I like them tough. The lower the finishing rate, I think the better. That's sort of a criteria that attracts me. And yeah, just tough, gritty. I if it has vertical, then and it's technical, I'm there. Just a matter of fitting it in between everything else we have going on in life.
Yeah.
But that said, it's a unique race. It's a special race. Whether you've done it once or many times, you go away with an incredible feeling of satisfaction. And their mantra at the end of the race, I think, really sticks with the whole of the trail community, which is it wouldn't be fun. We wouldn't want it to be easy. Which when was the last time you did something that was really gratifying in life that was easy? I mean, I can't think of something.
Yeah, it almost seems silly to ask the question, why is it do you like to go out to Hawaii and run ultra marathons, especially coming from an ultra marathon?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but it is, it's a lot of effort to get out there, and it is a tough race, and to continue to go year in and year out and battle and go out there. It sounds like a really cool thing. I mean, that's why I like your races, because that's kind of my local races, and I enjoy it's just such a great community. Thomas asks, and I've seen Thomas out on the trail, and I think in the last year's 12-hour, I was just kind of running and cross him and his dog route. This happened to be running on the trails one day. So he asks, is there any kind of specific diet plan that you follow before a race?
No.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no. So with that said, much, been following you, knowing you personally, but also, what you've been posting on your channel about the plant-based diet. About in 2015, switched to the Whole30 diet. And so, I call it Whole30-ish at this point. They, if I remember, they frown on alcohol and a few other things. Excuse me. But really, sticking with a whole foods type of diet, generally across the board. And, I found immediately as I transitioned to Whole30, I dropped 15 pounds right away, and been able to maintain that. But the short answer is no. Yeah, we do the basics. I stay away from fast food as a family, limit pastas and breads, limit the amount of processed food that goes into my body as a whole, and just sort of go by those general guidelines. And but going back to that Whole30, it's not for everyone. Just like you say, plant-based diet isn't for everyone. It works for some people. It doesn't work for other people. Yeah. For me, it worked. Within 4 months of doing that, I was, my hurt times dropped by an hour and a half, 2 hours. And my felt like my recovery was speeding up. My general health was better. I can tell you that I have not been sick since since I transitioned over to that diet. Was 6 years ago. In terms of getting a flu, getting those types of viruses that knock you out for a while. So I don't know. Hopefully that answered your question, Tom. But the short answer is before a race, I'll avoid the alcohol a few days before. Generally speaking, but as soon as I'm done, there's usually a beer or a solid bottle of bourbon to share with the folks discreetly at the end of the race.
Yeah, I think getting people to a point where you're shedding excess weight and also avoiding stomach issues, which are typically a major issue with the standard American diet, where high in fat and adding in alcohol and all this stuff. You want to kind of steer clear of all that stuff before races, just to kind of keep your stomach on level ground there. Joe Kern says, talking about leaving your part of yourself out there. He says, that's why I'm coming back to Virginia. I left a little me out there. Got to come back for it. And that's what I've said about go ahead.
No, it says, come on back, Joe. We're waiting for you.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about that race. You know, you and I've talked a little bit about how kind of tough that race is. You know, on paper, it probably doesn't look as tough as it is, but it will grind. That's why I called it Into the Grinder on the kind of mini doc I made of it, just because it really does grind you up and spit you out. And if you try to beat it by trying to overpower it, it will take something off of you, whether it be blood, flesh. So you have to respect the course, because it does take its pound on the way out, on the mile out, and the mile back. So I have not nailed that race yet. I have not walked away and been like, I did everything I possibly could. So I don't know what I would do if I did. I'd still like to do the race, but yeah, it's definitely something that keeps me coming back.
Yeah, I'd say you came pretty close to it this time around, just watching you. I mean, you were dialed in.
I had at least another lap and a half in me. There's some times I could have sped some things up, but I was really trying to be conservative and see, what I could do without trying to fry myself. Talked about a lot on that one. So, do you have any advice for folks that are, and we did talk a little bit about this, ultra runners that are kind of in the process of thinking about transitioning from any distance into ultra marathons? Any kind of advice or something they should think about before moving into ultra marathons? Is it just jump in the deep end and get it done? Because I think people overthink it a lot. But do you have any kind of advice, from a runner's aspect or a race director's aspect?
Runner aspect, my mentality is, dive into the deep end.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Dive into the deep end, see what happens. I think ultra running, you learn a lot from the community, but in the same breath, it's also the school of hard knocks. And but yeah, so do your research. Do your research. Pick a race. If you think you've got skills A, B, and C, find a race that is going to align with what you feel is your strong skill set in running. Some folks, it's flat ultra marathons, which whether it's a road, which are becoming fewer and fewer now. Your road ultra marathons. I think first one that comes to mind, the extreme one, is Conrad's. You've got other ones, even though it's 15 miles on trail, like the JFK, Old Dominion, good starters. Even the CNO Canal. If you're strong, I call them flatlanders. Where you're not going to get a lot of vertical, and you can move if that's your strength and you like that. Find a race that's gonna appeal to your strengths, so you can be successful. And move from there. For me, I've always liked technical dancing on rocks. That's why you see I enjoy Hurt. And just finding, I live here just up north from John in Woodbridge, Virginia. And, you can find me, if I'm not in Prince William, usually out in the Shenandoahs or George Washington National Forest, where, there's rocks everywhere and they're all pointing up. For some reason, they're just, they're ready to kick into your foot. But yeah, so hopefully that helps the folks a little bit. But yeah, I'd say do your research, set realistic expectations for yourself. Don't go out there and, hey, if you've been a 19-minute 5K-er and you're going to sign up for your first 50K, you probably will do well, but at the same time, manage those expectations. Do your research. A lot of the principles coming from a marathon background to, training specificity, doing HIIT type training, all those types of pieces of the puzzle is from marathoning. I found when I started early on, transition into my first 50 miler. With doing a good taper, I still see a lot of people today when they tell me I tapered and, oh yeah, what did you do for your tapers? Like, yeah, I did 2 weeks, this is the week before the 24-hour. Like, yeah, I ran 20 miles the week before. That was like, all right, I'm going to watch this person closely, and it's doing your research. One book going on a little bit of a tangent here, it was written by a guy named Jack Daniels, not the bourbon guy. I think it's called Jack Daniels Formula for Running or Marathon Running. Great book, and that just lays a lot of the foundations that can lead you to be successful. And you can find other books that get into specificity, HIIT training, how to do speed work the right way. So hopefully that answers a little bit of that question.
Absolutely. So I know shoes, as somebody who reviews shoes, and I run in different shoes every single day. Do you have anything? What's your favorite shoe? A preference for Trevor?
I don't have a favorite shoe. That said, I do not steer away from what works for me. Right now, I'm running in Topo, the Mountain Racer. It is a good shoe. I also know that it's not the best shoe for me, but it's working for me right now until I find that other shoe, if that makes sense.
I completely get it.
Yeah, but to answer the question, you hear people and they have the successors. They do your own research with your shoes. I used to work in a running store for a number of years. Go into a running store, spend the time, do your research on the shoes. Or a shoe is like a GPS. It's like an opinion. We all have one. Yep. And each one of our feet are created a little bit differently, and each person's foot has different needs. So I know I'm not giving people an answer saying, hey, you know what, Topo's the best, go run with that, or go do Hoka, or go do the Brooks Cascadia. Yeah. Find that shoe that works for you. And sometimes different shoes work for people at different terrains.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I review a lot of shoes, and I always try to preface that with, this is kind of my experience as somebody who's, 198 pounds. I run this speed. This is kind of the miles I do. It's very specific to my foot strike, my, everything about that. And so, I'll do a review, and it'll be a glowing review on a shoe. And then I get all the hate of that shoe's the worst shoe I've ever. I'm like, okay, well, we can all have an opinion. The shoes are something you have to try out. I'm very fortunate to be able to try lots of different shoes. So I know some people kind of pull the trigger on shoes, and then you're kind of burned because they don't work out for you. So I know shoes are a very personal thing.
Yeah, and they cost a lot of money.
Exactly.
Here we are trying to find the right pair of shoe, and boom, there's 150, there's 120. Hokas are pushing 200 now.
Yep. And that's why I try to be careful with what I'm saying. Go buy this or go do that, because I know the amount of money and investment that goes in these things. So I try to be extremely transparent with kind of why I think what they are, and also the variables that go into why I think that. Kelly asks, she's got to go to work. So Kelly is a member of the channel. She says a few questions she'd like to ask. Any personal habits and tips to get through kind of the lows? And you talked about food. Do you have any personal foods you love?
So personal habits for getting through the lows. Barring an injury, you will not have a worse low in the race than that feeling if you decide to drop. One of our local guys here, folks know Gary Nippling. He always used to say, he would say, what are you going to feel like on Tuesday after your race if you decide to drop? Many times we give ourselves a pat on the back. Well, I learned this and I learned that from the race, and that's fodder for next time, right? To fix the error. But at the end of the day, and I've done it. I've dropped from 2 races where I shouldn't have dropped. I'll look at you in the eye, and you know what? I gave up on myself, and it still stays with me. And it's for me, it's fuel for pushing and being successful. And then, the other thing is you having 2 little girls at home, and, you spend all this time away from them and you don't finish a race for whatever reason, you got to explain that to them. And, you can sugarcoat it, but you still got to live with yourself. But no, but the highs and lows in the middle of a race, I found that before 2015 and changing, and maybe you experienced this too, John, with your plant-based diet at the 24-hour in the last few months, that the highs and lows are they're sort of they're sort of ripples in the water now instead of big waves. Where you've got, instead of going like this, it's just sort of a smoothed out curve. Yeah. And I do believe that that's a quality. That's based on the quality of food that I'm putting in my body.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
the dropping thing is tough.
mm,
I think we can.
mhm.
I don't want to go down that road because I could make an entire show
Yeah,
on dropping a race and kind of the emotions and things that go
yeah.
into that. So
I think that'd be a good one though.
yeah, it is. It's a tough one. It's a tough scab to pick at. But I think if you're honest with yourself and like you said, it is tough to kind of to know the investment you put into it and the time. I talk about this channel all the time. Is time is the biggest and most important thing in your life. I mean, you can't make more of it, and to
Yeah,
give it to something, you take it away from something else. So it's tough when you fail. And we can look at it and say, look, I learned something, and it is. I mean, I finished Belmonte, and then the first time I ran it, and then I didn't finish. I had an injury,
hmm
but I was also in a very bad mental place. Also, but I learned a lot from that. I learned what not to do, how to set myself up for success better the next time. So I'll probably do a whole show on that. So you mentioned you had an injury, and I don't know how deep you want to go into it, but it was a significant injury that you've had to kind of battle to come back from. And I know a lot of people on the channel deal with injuries, maybe not as severe as yours,
hmm
but some people want to know, like, what happened and kind of how you got through it, and you're kind of coming out the other side now. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, yeah. Good one. You caught me off guard there.
I'm sorry. And if
No,
you
no,
don't want to talk about it, it's fine.
no. I do because I think part of us, with dealing with injuries, a lot. For me personally, it's for whatever happens for me that like for me to be able to run, or do anything physical. It's for me. It's like it's my daily reset button. It's going out in the woods and the de-stressor. And yeah, so that said, anytime that's taken away from me or you or anyone, there's an immediate imbalance, and that usually that'll come from injuries, and it can have a ripple effect in our lives, whether we realize it immediately that it's coming, or sooner than later, later than sooner, and lube up everything process. But yeah, so my injury. There's been two in the last couple years. 2 years ago, next week, 15th anniversary canyoneering in southern Utah with my wife, and I hopped on this log. And I don't know if did I share this story with you, John?
I think I've
And
heard a little bit of it.
yeah, so anyhow, it was a log. I'm guessing 200 to 300 pounds. It was about 8 feet off the ground. Hopped on that and went off of that, and it was a glance. The way I came off of it, me and the log fell together. We were
Mm.
2 miles away from the trailhead in a slot canyon. For those of you who do a lot of backcountry stuff, that was a recipe for disaster. And to walk away with a crushed foot at the time was very, very fortunate. And I had to hike out too. I mean, I was well enough to hike out. It's a fight or flight experience that it's the best adrenaline rush I've ever had that I never want to experience again. But anyhow, so there was a recovery coming back from that, and it was difficult. Number one, it killed our 15th wedding anniversary. Well, it still ended up being pretty good, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it cut our trip short. 4 days after that, my wife was going home, and I was due to run the Scout Mountain 100. So going back to what you're saying, you have all this training that you've built up, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And
Yeah.
this injury was in 7 months. I was able to follow a good path, have a good coach in Mountain Peak Fitness, and they worked with them closely, and I got back to hurt 7 months later, and was able to finish that. And then I think the big injury that John's alluding to is 6 months after that, ran a 4-day stage race, and I had started having issues with my right hip. The issue was a torn labrum and cam deformation, which basically means a hip impingement. So December, moving fast forward right quick, had labral repair, and they shaved down the cam head. And today's technology, I'm lucky. I'm recovering. This past weekend, hit 18 miles with 5,000 feet of vertical in the Shenandoahs with a group of folks, casual, easy. And every time I'm out on the trail now, I take a moment. It's a blessing. This type of injury, I have some personal friends and folks that I know that have tried to continue to run through this. And what it is, it's a tear in your labrum. For people who don't know exactly what that is, that's the cartilage between the ball and the socket in your hip. And once that's torn, you hear of either hip replacements, or you're looking at some type of, putting in basically a fake piece of cartilage, which limits your mobility and running the rest of your life. Or you just can't do it to the extent you were able to do it before. So that said, it's been a struggle. It's a daily, it's still a daily battle. I still don't know if I'm going to be able to go back and do hurt, or my events that I have set up for in September. But that said, it's a battle, and I'm looking towards that. And my goal is to get back out there and to finish the DBR and to finish hurt again. And it's tough though. It's a struggle day to day, and it's a commitment. And I'm fortunate that my wife understands my love of the sport. The kids, I don't know that they know any better because they've been doing it ever since I was little. But it's a struggle, and it takes a lot out of you. Where I'm doing early on the first 2 months, I was physical therapy once a week for an hour, and it's a joke. It's like I've got homework, and you see the results between going home and doing 45 minutes to an hour of PT on top of everything else you're juggling in the day. And then it's all right. My basically lower body's immobile, so I'm doing upper body workouts, whether I'm using ropes, or an assault bike without the legs. So it's a constant struggle and a battle. But I think the key that I think that has helped me, which is what you learn in life, is focus on your goals. Like, where do you this is just a stepping stone. That this sucks. Absolutely. It really freaking sucks. You don't want it to happen to you or your worst enemy. But that said, anyone can get out of this. It's what do you want to do, and how do you want to get there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a doubt you'll do it. I mean,
yeah,
if you run hurt as many times as you have, I think that you could get your way through this. So,
cheers. Yeah, it's and I think sometimes we know that in the back of our head, and yet you still question it every day. And you just have to, you got to keep telling yourself that. And it's and it I'm talking about this long range goal, but every day it's still the little goals. It's like, okay, I need to, even today, it's like I was in physical therapy, and I was, after that, my hips are wasted today, and tomorrow it's getting in and doing, accomplishing my goals for tomorrow with my coach and the PT that I have to do. And, it's just day by day, and then building up. All right, so 2 weeks, I get to go out and do that first 20 miler. And then, in a month from now, it'll be 2 back-to-back days, 20 and a 30, so just in those incremental goals, much like our training plans, right?
Yeah.
You have, you build your training plan every, example, you build 3 weeks, take a week off, let your body recuperate, and you have those goals for that month that you want to hit. And that's sort of been my logical progression to hopefully get back to where I want to be. But that said, I found through this injury, I found a new love for battle ropes, and doing ropes. Yeah, it's I sat there. I've done them for an hour straight, which is really stupid, but
part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the other piece of it. It's, you got to take it in stride. It really sucks, but like you said, it's part of the journey, and you got to embrace it. And it wouldn't be fun if it was easy.
I think you got to take stock of the accomplishments in life. So I think we have a tendency, especially in the sport, to kind of overlook the gravity of the things that we've done. Not that we're superhuman, but we do things that most humans choose not to do, whether they're sane, they're right in their thinking, but we do things that are extraordinary as ordinary humans. Now there are some of those of us that are superhuman that run these races in a way in which baffles me, but I am just as impressed with the folks that are coming in last, who've been out there on 36 hours for 100, just squeaking in before the cutoff because they've been out there so long battling. To me, that is just as impressive, if not more, because they weren't born with the superhuman gift. So I think sometimes we have to take stock of the accomplishments and what we've gotten through, and what that means with the grit and who we are and what we can get through, especially the challenges that you're going through now. So is there a race you have right now? It's on your bucket list that you want to. I know, Western States is a race that I want to do. I haven't even done the things to do that I need to do to get there. But is there a race that for you that's a race you want to do?
Yeah. So right now on the agenda, and I just went into the diatribe about the hip and the other previous injuries. Coming back from this hip injury last September, I signed up for the Dragonback race in Wales, and you guys can look it up on your own. This is the humble brag of the day. I'm wearing their sweatshirt.
It doesn't sound easy.
It's a staged race, 6 days, 236 miles, 57,000 feet of ascent. So
wow.
It's roughly 39 miles a day. I don't know what's 60,000 divided by roughly 10K of vertical a day. And you quickly look at the course and you find out why a lot of the best mountaineers and mountain climbers come from Wales. So that's, going back to, what we said earlier about, transitioning from, just trail running into ultra something, just dive right in. So this race it came on my radar, 2012, when they ran the second running, and it was just, hey, that sounds really cool. Be good to do it one day. And, with the way our life is with our family and the kids, and then being a priority, now finally at an opportunity where I can dive in. So yeah, it's a Dragonback race. There's still, this is fun, but using the expression, there's still a lot of work to be done for me to get to the start line. But yes, but that's the not the bucket list, but that's the near term goal of stretching stretching beyond the physical and the emotional, and seeing where seeing what I've got in this physical body will take me.
Absolutely. That journey, the funny thing about, running ultras and planning, like the logistics of planning them, like it's all together. Like the day that you decide, you press, make payment on a race, it starts there. I mean, to the point when you decide to either tap out or cross the finish line, that entire experience is the journey. That is the thing. That's all of it. It's not just the race, it's the planning, getting there. So I'm almost, the nerd that I am, I'm almost more excited going through and doing all the research, over researching races and stuff like that. So I think that's is a cool thing. And that race sounds amazing. So at this point, I'm going to kind of transition. I know, I know we're running short on time here soon, but hopefully you're okay to go for a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit more about.
I'm good. I'm at your disposal.
I'm open too, so we'll keep going as long as we got here. So I'm going to transition into the race director hat. I appreciate all of. I'm sure everyone out there appreciates your musings and your experience in talking about ultra running. But I think even more importantly, in the days that have happened over the last year and a half of COVID, I want to give you a chance to kind of talk about Athletic Equation. I read that you're, a certified coach and trainer, and the company offers a lot of different services. And I want to give you an opportunity to kind of plug, Athletic Equation and what you offer and what you're planning on doing in the future really quickly.
All right. So Athletic Equation, it started, I got to give props to Scott Crabb. We started the 24-hour together. This year, this was the first year he was not with us. He is on a a 1-year sabbatical in an RV. God bless him. Right as COVID was starting a year and a half ago, almost. The plans were already in the works. The RV was bought. The house was sold. The house was packaged up into 2 storage containers, and they've been traveling the country during COVID.
Wow.
So Scott and a lot of other folks, like I said, the volunteers, they make Athletic Equation. What we're doing, COVID, I like to think we took a unique approach to it. All our races were, effectively canceled. We were, or at least for 6 months. When things started up last March, we were able to host the 12-hour. I think you were there.
Yep.
And we were really fortunate. Things were pretty tight. We kept it to half a field. But with COVID, what we did is a lot of organizations did this. I think the Jason Green down south, a couple folks out west started hosting all these virtual races. What we did with our organization is we gave people the option. They got over, I think, 95% of their 90%, excuse me, of their funds back from the race. There's always some sunk costs with the event, so we gave 90% back, and then we opened up these monthly ultras, and it was simply our objective was the monies from that went to a fund started by USWE, which would help race directors weather the storm for their loss of income. It's for example, I'm very fortunate that Athletic Equation is not our bread and butter in our family. We never built it. We come together as Athletic Equation because we have fun hosting races. And there's a lot of other little side projects we've got now, but that's the bottom line. So with COVID, what we focused on was, all right, our shirt supplier, the screeners, they took it where it hurts. Yeah. And when I would go in there, they always used to be packed. You think about it, screen printers, they're doing your kids' sports jerseys, whether it's baseball, soccer, hockey. And they had nothing. For the first time ever, I'm going in with 50 shirts each month, and they were done the next day. And I could tell that in some cases they were staying open just for me. And and I'd been working with them for 15 years. We've got a great relationship. So keeping the supply chain alive. Even though it's pennies on the dollar to the economy, just keeping the money flow. And so it was like $30, $35. We'd mail you a shirt. We'd get them printed, and you go run a 50K, and then you just post it on the Athletic Equation group site. And it was fun. I think in those first few months when we didn't know where COVID was going and what was going on, I think you enjoyed it too.
I did.
Everyone, it kept us together. I think as a trail community, as our tribe, we were able to keep together. So that's what we did during COVID. Now with COVID, you've got the other extreme. Things are starting to lax up. And you've got all these varying, political philosophies on what COVID is, what it's not. With us, we just take a simple opinion of, what our goal is to make everyone feel comfortable. And if that involves Athletic Equation being too much of I don't want to say the COVID patrol, but we want to make sure everyone is comfortable and safe. And if you don't like wearing a mask in an aid station, I'm going to be point blank. There's a lot of other races out there. We want to make sure that everyone is safe and feels comfortable. And that's what, and now it starts from there, rebuilding ourselves as Athletic Equation, because we really have to come in there and be responsible to the community. Now we have a lot more knowledge too than when COVID first started. But that said, there's still people, there's still caretakers, how many, just this past race, we had a couple runners that, they're running and they're over COVID. They're caretakers. They work a full-time job, but they're caretakers for their 90-year-old parents.
Yeah.
And, they're immunocompromised. If they come home with it, they're probably going to kill them.
Yeah.
And, you could just see that wear and tear. So our goal is to make everyone safe, comfortable. We're still going to report. We're still going to do the forms. We're still going to ask for masks, in maintaining that in the near future.
And
with our. I'm sorry.
You guys have done a great job of that. I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, from the 12-hour race, all the things, all these extra things were never something that really impacted the runners that much. I mean, you guys had to go through, I'm sure, all of the extra hours of the forms and the temperature checking and messaging and doing online forms. So you guys were taking the hit on that just to help provide a race. So as someone who doesn't typically run with a mask when I'm out on the trails by myself, I understand other people's concerns, and it didn't bother me one bit to follow any of the regulations or the rules or anything like that. I was happy to be able to run a race, and you guys did a fantastic job from messaging as the world was burning down and everyone was losing their minds about races and them getting canceled because it got dropped on all of us.
Yeah, it did.
And people were angry. People were now having to worry about income, and they're mad about their money being taken. And so I created a video trying to basically defending and kind of telling the side of the race directors, like, look what you're saying, like we're supporting those that support us in what we do. So to me, it meant nothing if I lost that, because I'm lucky and blessed enough to have income still coming in from my job. And so if I had to, lose $100 or whatever it is, $120 to help pay for those companies to stay open, you know what? I'd like to see them next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, I tell you, and the thing that was awesome and encouraging there within, so we canceled the 24-hour last year. We canceled the OSS. So we got really lucky. And then, but there must have been a handful of people from each one of those races that, they said, they just said, don't worry about the money. So they said, to the point of, you need it more than I do right now.
Absolutely.
And that was a comfort. And that was, you could see that if that's happening here with Athletic Equation, with other race companies out there where, it's their bread and butter and it's their livelihood and it's them putting food on their table for their kids. That made me feel real good about our community.
Absolutely. You did a great job with the messaging. You guys nailed it. And, I know it's probably uncomfortable with me praising you, but I really think I'm very big with communication just in general. Communication solves a lot of problems.
Oh, I agree with you.
Over communicating solves a ton of problems. Under communicating creates a lot of problems. And you did a great job with that. And so from a race director's perspective, when race cancellations happen, and what I would like to really have people understand is the last thing I can assume you want to happen on earth is a race to get canceled. But is there a perspective that you would like people to understand from your chair, the thoughts and the decisions that go into that, and how much that is the very last thing you want to do, and kind of the benefits of maybe why you don't refund money? And I know that you have offered that in the past, and that could be differently, but race directors may not always do that. And I'm hoping people can understand the other side of that. And it is exactly what I think you've explained. It's helping support those. Again, like you, it's not your income.
Yeah.
Maybe it afforded you a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah. So, I've, in my past jobs too, I have always been involved with logistics. And I could get hate mail for what I'm about to say, and so be it. With all of our events, when we canceled the 2 events, we gave people the options. We said, hey, you can defer, and it's like, all right, great, we get to keep the money, and that that's helpful to sustain operations, because at the end of the day, you're still still running Wi-Fi, still paying for the phone. We still had permits that we lost, to certain dollar values.
Your investment starts long before the race starts. Most people need to understand that. You don't get to cash the checks on race day.
There's not it's not, you're not pushing the button. That was easy, and everything just, freaking magically appears. Printed shirts, awards, volunteers, food from Costco or BJ's or wherever you're getting food from. And then the people who are cooking it, that shit doesn't just appear
and permits
out of nowhere. But that said, what we were able to do, I think, because we had good relationships with our supply chain, and why I'd like to say is why we're able to offer up to 90% back during those times, was that we had a good relationship with our suppliers. And you could see the writing on the wall coming down. And, one can argue I'm fortunate that this isn't, my primary source of income. That said, even if it was, it is not right for me to keep money why should I keep your money because I need it to live if I'm not giving you a service or a product?
Yeah,
Does that make sense? That's like stealing. So that said, our supply chain was really flexible, and we were able to really tighten the supply chain. The fancy logistics term, just in time logistics, or just in time for your logistics, right? So with those races, we're able to wait to the last minute, and really up until the last race, we've been doing that with our supply chain. During COVID, to offer, I think last race we were able to do up to a 2-week window where we were offering 60 to 70% back. Before that, it was 90. So we're able to really give people that flexibility that our supply chain was giving. And working with them, say, okay, we're paying a little bit extra for shipping. At the same time, we were getting it shipped directly to the screener. They never did that for us before because of how busy they were. They were a little bit softer now. They can manage that for us.
Yeah.
That saved us money. So if that all makes sense. So a lot of it is tied to the supply chain and how you decide to pull your expenditures. And I know of a lot of other race directors that they were able to do the same thing and offer 90 even to 100% because the only thing they had paid for was a permit at that time. And when they canceled the race, what I've seen historically in our 15 years, not to give away secrets here on a thing, but really for us, we're looking in the last 6 weeks prior to an event is when we start spending all the money.
Yeah.
So when you see athletic equation, you say 50% is returned after within a month. We do have a lot of overhead like any other company because we are a business, which sort of takes
money.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I hate sitting in front of the book and doing the books. I hate that because it's just like anything, man. It's not the fun part. The fun part is being out there with you, watching John, watching everyone else, finish their first ultra marathon. But yeah, so it was tough, but that's in terms of the supply chain, I think it boils down to running an efficient supply chain. If you are able to do that, then I like to think that's what we did, which is push, give that extent, push that to our runners and give them as much money back as possible.
That's right. And you did offer the virtual races. So if you go out and run a 50K per month, you sent, I got a shirt, I ran a 50K on my treadmill.
Yeah. Did you get the purple shirt or the green one?
No, I got the hoodie, the gray hoodie.
Oh, that's right. That was the first issue. Yeah. And that we did, and we still have those. So if you, and the other thing that we're still doing, which I haven't advertised, is we even we pushed it up to 100-miler, which a lot of people, and we call them the Babs, which are big ass buckles, which they're probably about that big.
I saw one on the 12-hour. You had one sitting on your truck.
Yes. Yeah.
Big.
Yeah. Because one of the volunteers had just finished one. So we've got we had 30 of those made. There are 13 left. Some people had never made it there. Other people didn't claim them. But yeah, so I mean that was a unique thing that I think came out of COVID was people doing their own adventure.
Yeah.
And I think as much as we like the race environment, finding new challenges to keep us entertained, to keep us busy. And I think running 100 miles in a solo format where you don't have the races and the big aid stations, that's a hell of a lot tougher up here than probably anything I've ever done.
I think I ran 3 50Ks last year solo.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they are tough. I mean, I'm doing a kind of 10+ miles a day thing.
Congratulations, man. That's
it's fun. It's a challenge thing. I'm at 90 miles now over 8 days, and I'm enjoying it. So like you're saying, I just like the challenge, and it's also helping me build my base coming into the races. I want to talk a little bit really quick about the loop format. You guys have a lot of looped races, which I absolutely love. And there's probably, you also love Hurt, which is a looped style type race. I love it for many reasons. From logistics standpoint, I don't have to bug a bunch of my family or friends to come, waste a day, chasing me around and feeding me and all of that. And it reduces the stress. And it really takes, it's kind of like running an ultra with a net. If I go out and run a 24-hour and only end up doing 40 miles, who cares, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nobody else cares anyways. But
and you never get a DNF, right? You just got to finish one loop in an hour race, and it's not a DNF.
So is that your thought process behind this, is really trying to bridge the gap for new runners, new ultra runners, to kind of be able to expand? Because these races are tough. They're not easy, but it does allow to expose people. Is that kind of your philosophy?
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. And that's from day one when we started with Scott and all the other folks. That was the goal is to bridge that gap, to find come out and run as much as you want. Managing your own expectations so you can be successful, to bridge that gap into ultra, or becoming ultra, and living that ultra life. But yeah, so I mean, you'll see you've got the 24-hour. We also have an 8-hour, which is a little bit more docile down in Lake Ann. I think you've participated in that. We've got the 12-hour. And those were the first 3 races that we started with, and it's really for the newbies to come out, and we average. Every race is between 15 and 25%. I think the highest we had one year was 30% on the newbies. And the 24, the 12-hour, the OSS, we give unique awards for first-time ultra finishers. But yeah, you're smashing it, John. But yeah, so but that's the reason why we started. Is to bridge that gap. You asked about the race director, putting on the race director hat. I will selfishly say there's nothing more than I love at one of the races is having people finish an ultra for the first time at our event. And over the years, some people you can tell that some people know they're going to get it done.
Yeah.
And for other people, it's a big question. Like you don't know, and to see people finish, and you can see the change that it's going to make in their lives. And I think we've all been there with whether it was our first, or whether it's our first 50K or first 100 or whatever it was. It's transformational. You're like you said, you're peeling back that layer of the onion earlier, and you're learning more about yourself, that things that you never know existed, or things that are developing in you and growing out of this experience and this journey, going from the training to completing that first journey, and how it evolves.
You're seeing a different person. So the person who started, you sound that gun, they take off. When they finish, you're seeing a different person for their first race. It's transformational. Yeah. It's transformational. Yeah. I 100% believe that.
Yeah. And, you don't need to know them to see that, if that makes sense. I mean, you can absolutely, you can see it by, the look in their eyes, or, the hug that they end up giving you at the end of the race. I mean, you can feel that. You feel it in their energy.
Yeah.
That might sound a little crunchy and granola, but there's a new energy about these people, and you may have not known it before, but you can just tell that there's something special has been released.
I completely get it. I mean, that's where the confluence is between what you do and what I do. What my job is, and why I do this channel, is to point those people towards those events, and to give them the courage to try it. That look, if I can do it, you can do it. You got to put in the work. You can get this toe the line and put one foot in front. You will do it. I just try to let everyone know it's not as unachievable as you think it is. It's really not. It's tough. It's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible to do those things. And
I agree with you.
Yeah,
that one of my good buddy, Dennis Cook, I'll plug him. He's a race director out west, and I've known Dennis since he cut his teeth with us in 2007, his first ultra. And since then we've become good friends. And he's got this line. He said, give me someone who's finished a 10K and with a little bit of desire, and they'll finish a 100-miler. If you can
Yeah.
run 10K, you can get to 100.
Yeah.
Obviously the variables is time, big one, family, commitments. But once you make that commitment, if you can run 10K and you can put the commitment in, you'll get there.
Absolutely. Joe Kern asks, do you put on a 100-miler? If you have pierogies, I'll come do that. I'd be scared if you put on a 100-miler because it would just be climbing up and down, up and down.
We used to have one out in Montana, believe it or not, if that makes any sense. And it's athletic equation, and much like running an ultra marathon, it's about balance in life. And so we used to have a 100-miler out there, and we did it for 2 years, and then we chopped it down to a 50, hoping to revive it. And on the personal front, it threw our family out of whack.
Yeah.
And does it suck? Yeah, but we had to hang up the shoes on that one.
Gotcha.
But
Arlene,
no, 100-miler, that could happen. That could happen sometime in the near future. A little bit on that. We're also looking at, once COVID things relax a little bit, see how that goes. We'll get back to some international travel, boutique, if you want to call it boutique running experiences to Spain and Greece.
I think there'd probably be a lot of people in this community that would be interested in that. That's definitely a really cool thing you guys offer. Arlene said, not just for newbies. How about us elderly old guys and gals who can't beat the cutoffs anymore? So that's definitely a good thing for the interloopal format for folks.
Yeah, and I'm really glad Arlene brought that up. And because I apologize, I should have brought that up. We have a couple tried and true folks, and it's like, yeah, you don't have any cutoffs in a loop 24-hour race. So there's, the stress is off, and old, slow, however you want to put it on, old, slow, whatever, just not moving as fast as the the Zach Bitters of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Not everybody can be a freak of nature.
Yeah. So, but going back to, you said it, the people who are going to be out there for 36 hours, the loop formats, are big equilibrators too, because they will suck the life out of people, and they'll underestimate the course, and it's the people who keep going who end up being successful. I think one year we had Dave Robertson, who also helps out, and he's one of the backbones to our event. At 63, he knocked out, I think, 83 miles and took the overall championship in the 24-hour. I think that was 5 years ago.
That was the first year I ran it. So I met him sitting at the dinner the night before.
Yeah.
And he actually is a father of somebody I went to high school with. And to know that he won that, I'm like, holy crap. Like it blew my mind to the point of like, I could spend the next 20 years, you know what I mean, working and still be successful. Like that changed my perspective, meeting him and then seeing how successful he was. To me, because when I see someone out there that's older than me and they're still doing it, like I always say, I hope I'm still doing it like they are at that age. Like, to me, that's amazing. And to me, it's always been about longevity. I don't care about doing, I would rather run ultras for the next, 25, 30 years than to pick a race. And just, if I was able to win that race, I could win that race. I would always choose to be able to 30 years.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. Yeah, I still want to be putting one foot in front of the other, when I'm 85.
Absolutely. So next year we're definitely, Joe and I've talked about it. We're going to have a tent out at the 24-hour race, and we're going to have a party. We're going to have everybody come out. We're going to have a motivation theory running tent if we're allowed to.
I love
it. So as a race director, what's one of the more inspirational stories? We're coming up on the end here, but I think you get to see a lot of things. As a runner, we have our own experience, and it's usually around our own experience. You get to see everyone else's. Has there been a story or something you've seen that's just been extremely inspirational to you?
Jeez.
And that might be a tough one.
Tough one. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot, and in my short memory, probably forgetting a lot of them. Uh, but yeah, maybe I'll answer this more in like a general,
Yeah.
a general story where, yeah. So as a race director, yeah, and you've probably been the brunt of this. You'll come in and you're ready to quit, or you're just done. And it'll be 1 or 2 in the morning, and you're just like, I'm done, and I'm over there. It's like, do you really want to quit? You've got 5 hours to go. You can get this much further. What are
We
you
had
gonna,
that conversation.
yeah, what are you going to think of yourself on Tuesday morning when you look back and said, yeah, I had 5 hours still on the clock, and I could have gone this much further. And sometimes is you're able to get a person back out there, and over the years, you sort of know that fine line on where you can push people to go back out for another loop or two, or they're done. And and this has happened multiple times. It's not necessarily me that does it, but there'll be someone else who's a volunteer, or I've seen Scott Crabb do it multiple times, Jack Kariski, where just we're able to get that person back out there to get them to go out there for one more loop.
You guys are successful.
And
I've talked to multiple people out there that have been guilted and browbeat to go back out, and they were happy to do it. But I'm like, you let somebody talk you on doing another lap, and you look phenomenal. They were right.
Yeah, and sometimes you can tell. You get them in, and you start to ask a couple probing questions, and you figure out which ones to ask. And sometimes you can tell, all right, these guys are really hurt if they go back out. But sometimes you just sort of get the reason, like there's no reason for them not to go out. So you just keep pushing and you keep pushing, and they go back out. And in a handful of cases, going back to that first ultra marathon experience where you were able to get them to go back out when they had convinced themselves that they were done. And when that happens and they come back in, they're expressing that sometimes you can see this elation, and they're expressing the gratitude to you. And at the same time, you see that they realize that they've achieved something that they didn't think was possible.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And when they come in, you see that emotion, and that's one of the most rewarding things. But that, so is there a specific, maybe it's all those moments wrapped
together,
up across the years. But one specific moment, I can't really think that one that sticks out more than any of the others right off the bat. Yeah, sorry about that. Bummer.
No, not a problem. That's
I
good.
wish I had a fancy name with a fancy story, but really seeing those people when they come back in, because I remember this one lady, she was at 43.5, and she's like, I'm done. I was like, look, you've got one more loop to go. We've got, and I pulled in the guilt trip. I pulled out the pint glass, which I usually never do beforehand. I said, look, you need one more loop. This is what you're going to get. The other people that dropped, my wife is going to be so pissed that I go home with all these extra glasses, because we're just full. We don't have any more room in our cabinets for these glasses. So just go out there and do this. I know you've got it in you. And she comes it back and she finishes, and she's like, give me that pint glass. But her, that body language, her energy is, she's discovered something new in herself that was never there before.
Yeah. Eric Miller said, Snipes got me back out there for my last loop to make 75 miles, my first trail ultra.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Joe says, so next year, Alex, I'm expecting you to physically push me back out there until I get all 24 hours in. I'd like to publicly state I believe the same thing. Alex had a conversation with Joe and I as we're standing there. Joe's feet were killing him, and we kind of teamed up, and I was with Joe, and it's one of the kind of thing I definitely could have done another lap, and I'm kind of angry that because I wanted to break 70. Definitely could have had another lap in me 100%. And you're like, no, you got 4 hours left or whatever it was at that little under 4 hours. Yeah. And you had that conversation with us. I was like, no, I'm good. But next year you have full permission to prod us with.
Perfect. I'm going to keep this video. Can you take that, can you copy and paste that clip from your screen?
Absolutely.
We'll mail that to Joe and put that. I'll put that in his bib. I'll glue that to his bib
I know
next year.
Joe well. I know Joe well now after running 21 hours with him. I don't think you can hurt our feelings. So we give you permission to be a little bit more harsh. We need a little bit more prodding than you gave us.
All right.
So Arlene had asked this earlier, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
same kind of. So as a race director, what is something that just really bothers you that, maybe a runner has done or racers may do that is kind of a pet
Ooh.
peeve? And I don't want you to throw anybody under the bus, but
Yeah.
as you know, there could be something that really bothers you as a race director that racers do or runners do.
I think my wife would be the best person to answer this question. Because she's heard it. She's heard it all probably. The one thing that chafes me is the, as everyone out there, you guys are signing up for races, right? You guys are holding us accountable for putting on a good race. And that's our goal, to make everyone happy. Realistically, you can't make everyone happy in life. But that said, we shoot to do that. But the pet peeve is, so there's an accountability, right? You're giving us the money, and you expect a good race. But I do believe in that relationship, it's a two-way street. So you're holding us accountable to put on a good race. We hold you accountable to be a good runner. Even though you're out there on your own, you are a part of our event, which means you also represent us. So I caveat, and you also have crews. So these crews need to be there, and they need to be good representations of you and of the race. Just like I think in life, where we as people, we're representations of our parents. And they may be getting a little philosophical here, but bottom line is accountability. So that's one thing I like to see, that two-way accountability. Hold me accountable as a race director. I'm also going to hold you accountable as a runner, doing the little things right, having honor, having integrity during a race. But that said, like, my pet peeve is no shows the day of, especially this day and age with modern technology. And I understand that we have family, we have kids, we're also single, we're married, and we have the ultra life, man. It's life. It's an ultra life. There's ups and downs. There's craziness going on.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said, you think that we communicate really well, and I also expect a little bit of that communication back from runners. So if you're not going to show up on race day, shoot us a line, and my telephone numbers on every single email. Shoot us a text. Hey, I can't make it that morning. It makes me sad. Like the 24-hour this year, we had 950Kers not show up, not a word. Now, whether that's, and I understand there's that transition where, if I don't show up for a 5K or 10K, no one gives two hoots.
Yeah.
But then again, the ultra marathons, the race is a lot smaller. The time and effort that's put into each runner prior to the event, between the swag, the setup, that's a larger cost than it is at a 5K, 10K, or even a 50K that's going to have 500 or 600 people.
And if there's a limited field, you could have potentially taken a spot from someone else.
Exactly, and that too. So and there's always, I understand that people have to cancel within 48 hours. A family emergency comes up. We've had volunteers who have had nails in their tires, and I get a text. But they're texting, hey, I can't make it, or 2 a.m, my kid's got the flu, I'm not going to be able to go out. My wife got called into work. She's a nurse. But bottom line is, you've got that whole week. If you're not going to show, at least shoot us a text. That. Yeah. And that's just you asked me, that's my personal pet peeve. I probably could have said that in 30 seconds, but I wanted to caveat the greater picture of the two-way accountability that I believe exists between race directors and runners, because I've been on both sides of that.
Yeah, context is everything. So that's Thomas wants to know if you're gonna have to sign up for the 12-hour. at Prince William, and what month is it?
Yes, and I can probably drop that in the chat, right? If I've got a nickel's worth of
Sure.
sense on how to. Yeah, we registration for the 12-hour is open, Thomas. And do I just put it right in the comment section of the yard stream?
Yeah, 12-hour. I can do it too. Let me see if I can get to it.
I just dropped it in the private chat for you.
I have it now. Let me go over here. I'll just post
Yeah,
it in
so
the chat.
it's in September. This year it's on September 25th. We had to move it back a week.
Thanks, Cheryl. Okay.
But yeah.
I think
Holy cow,
answers
it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to keep you. I've kept you longer than I promised. I like to keep these to an hour, but this has been an awesome conversation. I love.
Yeah. Hope I didn't go on too much.
No, I love the perspective that you bring, because you bring a different perspective than just a runner. So I definitely appreciate. So I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything you want to plug? Any parting words for everyone before we sign off here?
Not much. Just it's these doing ultras. For those of you who are you're starting off, right, and you're questioning whether I should do this or not. It's life changing. It can be life changing. Life changing. What does that really mean these days? I don't know. It will make you grow as a person. I think it'll make the people around you. It'll make you a better person. It'll make the people around you better as a result of that. It'll help you grow as a person. Manage your expectations when you do cross that threshold. Go jump into the deep end. At some point you're gonna fail. That's okay. Keep plugging away. That's I don't think any of us, if everyone's gone through life with successes, then holy shit, let me know what you've learned.
Yeah.
If it's all been successful. But no, it's I don't know if that helps. It's not going to be easy. Keep plugging away at it, and you will be successful, and it will be life changing.
Absolutely. So, I'll urge, like I always do, everyone go out and check out Athletic Equation races. If you're looking to come to Virginia or Mount Tammy or any of the other areas that you have these races, or you're looking to do these more fancy races overseas, you can definitely contact Alex.
And a lot of them are also, call it, the Europe, they started using the word eco running. We pick a section in Greece, in Spain with our partners over there. Trail Run Spain, and we put together a 4 or 5 days a week of just running in their terrain, or if we want to figure it out around a race. They're boutique, they're not large groups. We're looking anywhere from like 4 to 10 people. We like to keep it small, intimate. It's all about the experience, learning about the culture within those areas that we go visit. Not the rush to do 100 different things and get a spattering of everything, but really getting immersed in the local culture and the running culture.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I want to say thank you to all of you who've hung on, and we have, people come in and out the whole time here, and I appreciate all the time of everyone. Of course, if you are not joined yet, we are on Strava. So if you're a runner that uses Strava, we have the Motivation Theory Run Club on Strava. We just passed 600 members out there, going strong.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we're closing in on 10,000 subscribers here on the channel soon. So if you're not subscribed, please do so. Please go check out Alex and Athletic Equation and all the things they have to offer. I would love to see you guys out there. I love when I'm in the races and I have people come up to me and say, "Hey, John." And I'm like, "How do you know my name?" They're like, I saw your video on this race. I'm like, "Well, that's awesome." So I love seeing you all out there. And if you want to do what Joe did, where you travel in and actually run a race with me, we can do that too. So I appreciate all of you here. Alex, again, it's been an honor to talk to you this whole time.
Likewise. No, the honor's all mine. I mean, what you're doing for our community, that's solid. And I know your following is growing, and it's growing for one reason. It's because you're doing a good job at it. And
I appreciate that.
This is probably a handful of the ones that I follow. And there's a lot of shit out there.
There is.
And your approach is it's unbiased, it's unadulterated, and it's pure and it's genuine. So thank you for what you're doing for our community.
Absolutely. So that's why I love this community. We have some great people out here, and that's all I got. I appreciate everyone. I'm going to head upstairs, go join the family for some dinner. And again, Alex, thank you for your time. Everyone, I will see you next Monday on Monday Night Live.
Yeah.
And take care, but be safe. Bye.
Bye-bye.